Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about what should you do if you have failed an Ahima exam. Should you take an Aapc exam instead? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys. So, I get this question a lot. And most of the time, the exam that we're talking about is either the CCS, that is a gold standard of medical coding credentials, that is a certified coding specialist, or it is a CCA, the certified coding associate. Now, the certified coding associate is a great credential. I had this for 13 years, and it's just an entry-level credential. But the thing about the CCA and the CCS is that they both test you on inpatient and outpatient coding. So you can pretty much write your ticket to apply anywhere you want to because you are trained and you know, according to your credential, that you can code for inpatient or outpatient. You know how to use a CPT book and the ICD-10 PCS book, of course, along with your ICD-10 CM book, which is the diagnoses. So sometimes people fail at these tests. The CCA is a 2-hour exam and the CCS is a 4-hour exam. Now, the thing is, if you have failed either the CCA or the CCS, I recommend not going over to Aapc and taking their CPC exam because you think it's easier. It's not, guys. People fail the CPC all the time. I know because there's a lot of people who comment on my channel how they had to take the CPC a few times. And there's a lot of reasons why people fail their exams. Sometimes they let their test anxiety get the best of them, which I tell you guys all the time, if you're studying 20 hours per week like you're supposed to, there's no excuse, guys. There's no excuse because you're going to know the material. If you are not studying quite as much, and maybe you are just taking a lackadaisical approach, you're tired of studying, you hate school, this is a drag, you don't want to do it, well, the result is going to be what it is, right? So that's the thing you have to consider when you're getting into something like this. This is an intellectual field, guys. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. It is not going to make sense for you to go from Ahima to Aapc because you're trying to get whatever credential you can. Guess what happens if you do this? If you have failed the Ahima exams, the CCA or the CCS, and you decide to go ahead and go over, you're not going to listen to me. You're going to go ahead and go over to Aapc anyway. Okay, now you got to put out even more money. Let's look at this logically, right? You got to put out even more money. So you have to put out the $205 to be a member because you have to pay that membership before you can pay for the exam. Then you got to pay for the exam, which is whatever it is, $399 or whatever, depending, because if you have the one chance or you have the two chances, it depends on which one you're selecting, which package. But you're still going to have to pay another roughly $400 out. Okay, so then that's another $600 that you're spending trying to get a certification. And then what happens? That's a 4-hour exam. The CPC is a 4-hour exam, 4 hours, 100 question exam. You have just as much chance of failing it as you did with the Ahima exams. Now, what is the difference with the CPC? The CPC only covers outpatient coding. And guess what? Ahima has their own that covers only outpatient coding, which is a CCSP, the Certified Coding Specialist Physician-based. I currently have that credential. It's only outpatient coding, which means you're only using the CPT manual, the ICD-10 CM manual, and the HCPCS manual. So that's for that certification exam. Now, again, you're going with the CPC. Well, if you don't have any prior experience in medical, right, because you didn't go through an approved Aapc program, if you pass that test, your credential will have an apprentice status with it. There will be a CPCA, Certified Professional Coder apprentice, okay? And you're going to have that apprentice status for 2 years. Unless you want to go ahead and pay for the Practicode, which is another fee, right? On top of the money that you just spent, the $600+ you just spent. Now you got to spend some more money for that Practicode program because that'll take 1 year of the 2-year time commitment that you have to have that apprentice status on your name. Now, you can get a job with the apprentice status. That's really no problem. Even people who hurry up and get the apprentice status removed, guess what? You still have no experience. You still have no experience, and you cannot use your Practicode as work experience. There are some people who erroneously say, oh yes, you can use the Practicode as a work experience. It's considered 1 year of typical work time according to AAPC for their requirements to remove the apprentice status. It is not work experience. I write resumes, guys, and people who have Practicode, I will put it on their resume as education. I will not put it as work experience, and I will not put it as an internship. And people still get calls from my resumes when they have that, and they still have apprentice status on their name. So again, it really goes to you understanding what it is you're trying to get into. It is unnecessary to have to spend out all this money now to try to go with another association because you happen to fail the AAPC, the Ahima exams one time. I'm going to tell y'all something, guys. If you look at the pass-fail rates of those exams, they're very tough. And those numbers are very low as far as like that you're able to pass it on the first try. So sometimes it takes a couple of runs at the exam in order to be able to pass it. And that's okay. Everybody's journey in medical coding is different. If you don't understand how to code and you're trying to take the exam and you fail the exam, and even if by chance you happen to pass the exam because you luckily guessed some questions, what happens when you get out into the real world? You're going to get tested again by the employer. They're going to give you a test. If you can't pass that test, you're not getting a call back, guys. Because there's a lot of people, these employers, that they want they want medical coders, but of course they want them to have experience. How are you supposed to get experience if no one will hire you? But if you go in there and you show that you really don't have experience, then they won't hire you. But if you go in there and you've been studying, you've been practicing, you've been going over these things, and you're able to pass their assessment test, they're going to give you a try, because medical coders who have experience in the area are going to be happy where they are. They're not going to want to go anywhere. And so that employer is going to have to take who they get, whoever applies. But that's why you have to be good and prepared. So my advice to you, if you fail an Ahima exam, don't go running to AAPC. Don't do it, because it's just more money. That $600+ you could save, put it towards your education, as far as like if there's something else that you need, that you know you need, like as far as like getting a tutor or finding some other books to study with. The books that I recommend are in the description box below, and those books that I recommend help either if you're taking an Ahima exam or an AAPC exam. Why? Because we all use the same ICD-10 manual, CPT, and HCPCS Level 2 manual, and ICD-10 PCS. We all use the same code set. So that's why I say you can use those books for whatever association certification exam you're taking. But my advice is, if you fail, you take those next 90 days, because you have to have a 90-day cooling off period between tests with Ahima. You take that time, you spend 20 hours per week studying, going over those books, right? Because I recommend the CPC study guide, even if you're taking the Ahima exam, because again, we all are tested on the same code set for CPT. So I like the way AAPC, and I'll give it to them. I will give it to them. AAPC did a good job on that study guide. And I think that it will prepare you, because I know, because it did help me when I was studying for my CCS and my CCSP. Okay, so I wouldn't suggest it if it didn't help me, guys. Again, those links for those books are in the description box below. But if you have failed it, it says to me, on the outside looking in, that you either don't know the material, or you're letting your anxiety get the best of you, and you're just like, oh, Blue, I'm a nervous test taker. Stop saying that if you are a nervous test taker. Stop saying it, because your brain is listening at all times. And if you think that, right? If you think, oh, I'm a nervous test taker and I can't. Okay, then your brain's gonna be like, okay, we can't do this. We're not going to do this, because we have it in our head that we're a nervous test taker. So that's something that you have to know right away. The other thing that you have to know is, if you have a medical condition where you need certain accommodations. You can apply for that. Ahima has that all over their website too. So if you have a diagnosed condition that requires you to need additional assistance, special accommodations, you can certainly apply for those. So take advantage of all the things that are available to you, okay? But again, if it's that you just missed it by a few points, you still need to study on those books. You still need to read your coding guidelines once per week. Because the thing about reading the coding guidelines once per week is that it's going to make you a faster reader. Now, a lot of these newer computers, they have the read aloud feature. You can certainly do that for those coding guidelines, so that way you can listen to them as you're doing other things, because repetition is the key to adult education, okay? We have to have things repeated to us, because with everything that we have in our lives, whether we have families or full-time jobs or whatever the case may be, it's important that we focus and keep repeating things so that we can remember, okay? But again, if you're just trying to hurry up and you only went through a 4-month fast-paced medical coding program that I tell y'all not to go through, that's going to be the result. You're going to see those kinds of results. Even if you've been a nurse before and you say, well, I still don't understand how I failed. Well, it has nothing to do with the fact that you were a nurse. The nurse part of it all, it's good because you know your anatomy, you know your medical terminology, you know your pharma and all that good stuff, pathophysiology as well. So that's good. But it doesn't mean that you are automatically going to understand the coding guidelines. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to automatically understand how to look up codes or why certain modifiers apply or what the deal is with this particular procedure. It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to know, all right? Your education does help you, but it doesn't always mean that you're a shoo-in. And that's where a lot of people get that mistaken thought of, oh, I should be able to cakewalk this. And then when they fail, then they're like, well, wait a minute, what happened? Well, I'm here to tell you that medical coding doesn't discriminate when it comes to failing these tests. People who have studied hard, people who have gone to great schools, people who have gone to not so great schools have failed these exams. And the associations, they don't have a limit on how many times you could take the test, because they're making money, right? And because they are, okay, you take it again, you take it again. And some people will have to take multiple runs at it. But if you really want to be serious about it, you will take 20 hours per week to study, even if you have a full-time job. I posted in the community tab Friday when I did my live, right? I did the live, my once a month live, and I posted again in the community tab the templates that you can use. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be that particular hour, but I broke it down into like some hours during the week. So that way you can kind of see what it's like. If like 7:30 doesn't work for you to do 30 minutes, that's okay. You pick whatever time works for you to do 30 minutes, and then another 30 minutes, and then another 30 minutes. Basically, it's 3.5 hours per day during the weekday. And then all you have to study is 2.5 hours on the weekend, guys. It's totally doable. It is totally doable. The way that I have it set up is that you're doing an hour and a half during your 8-hour workday, 30 minutes on your drive to work, 30 minutes during your lunch break, 30 minutes on your drive home, and then you spend 2 more hours studying. And you take a break at your 1 hour time, right? You set an alarm and you stop the second that alarm goes off. And you can be working through these books, through your manuals, and really getting to know them. If you have, and hopefully with Ahima, you know that you can't be tabbing up your books to heck and gone. Okay, guys? Don't do it. If you're doing that, if you have your books tabbed to heck and gone, whether you are with Ahima or Aapc, that tells me that you are not studying with the book enough. Because putting tabs on your books, which Ahima prohibits if it didn't come with the actual book, okay? That's an Ahima rule. And you can look at the Kennedy Hand Guide and it'll tell you, Pearson VUE, when you go there, they are supposed to inspect these books. They're going to shake them out. So if they have tape or notes or, any of those things, they can keep you from going into your exam room, because that's the thing. Those are the rules, guys. You can look at the candidate hand guide. It says it literally in black and white. And I don't know why people still want to argue with me about that. I have the guideline right there on my side, so whatever. But again, if you don't treat these books like they're reference tools, like they are supposed to be treated, you're not going to get anywhere with them, guys. They have everything that it needs. All of them have all the information that it needs. All you have to do is learn how to use it. Keep practicing, keep working with it. And it's just that 1 hour at a time, guys. If you do that 1 hour at a time, that's going to really do a lot to helping you remember. And that's 20 hours by the end of the week. And then I have another one where you're doing 4 hours a day for 5 days, and then you have the weekends off. So if that is more helpful for you, by all means. And then there's another template that I have where you're working 5 hours a day for 4 days. So that allows you to study a day, skip a day, study another day, and then skip another day. So you have plenty of time for your friends and your family and everything else. It shouldn't have to be that it's overloading you so much. And a lot of people will overload themselves unnecessarily rather than taking this relaxed approach where you can relax and study like you should. Because at the end of the day, if you failed, it's because you need more study. It's because you need more study. You need to devote those 20 hours. That's 80 hours in a month, right? 80 hours in a month. So by the time you go to take that test again, that's going to be all that much more time that you had to learn. That's 240 hours of study that you've done in those 90 days when you go to sit for your exam again. And trust me, you'll be a lot more confident walking in that room that you have spent that 240 hours getting prepared and then reading those coding guidelines. And not that you have to memorize everything, guys. That's another mistake that I see a lot of students making, is that they think that they need to memorize. You don't need to memorize, because you have your books. They're going to be able to go in there with you, okay? You don't have to be writing all over them, again, because they have all the information that they need. You just have to learn how to use them. There's anatomy templates throughout those books. If you're using the Optum 360 coding books for your ICD-10 or your ICD-10 PCS, if you happen to have that, to need that one, then it's going to give you all that extra information. I love Optum books. This is not an ad for Optum, but I love them. I love them because they're very comprehensive, and all the things that we as medical coders need in that support, these books are great and fantastic for them. And that's just my advice anyway. And the AMA CPT Professional Edition is also great as well. So, that's just something that you should know when you're going in to take your medical coding certification exams. Now, if you failed the CCS or the CCA because you didn't do so hot on the inpatient side, and that you don't think that you can take that part again, because inpatient is different. Coding for that inpatient side, knowing that PCS side of the house is really hard, guys. It is a challenge. It can be fun when you start to understand it, but it's certainly a challenge. So if you don't want to go through that again, then try for the CCSP. That is all the outpatient coding. So you are able to take that. There's recommendations that they say before, sitting for that exam, but there are no requirements as far as experience and things like that. They do say that it's helpful if you do have experience, but you certainly don't have to have it. I have the CCSP and the CCS. And the only reason that I carry them both is because I got the CCSP first, and then in the same year, I got the CCS. So with that said, I want you guys to think about what you're doing. Don't try to go from credential to credential just because you failed. Stop putting that in your mind that, oh, well, what if I fail? What if I fail? Or what if? What ifs never got anybody anywhere, right? They never did. They never will. And it'll keep you right where you are. And some people are content to stay right where they are rather than really realizing their full potential by getting there and studying. And just because you don't have people around you that are doing the same thing doesn't mean that you can't be your own pioneer and be doing things on your own. All right. And for those of you who say, well, Blue, I know I have kids. Okay, if they bug you, then you can have them help you study. And I guarantee you, a lot of them will be like, no, I don't want to do that. I'll go play and do my own thing. But again, if you're taking advantage of that time, those little pockets of time where you have 30 minutes or you have an hour to study, I think that that's really helpful. You know, sometimes people will say, well, what about 15 minutes? 15 minutes is really not enough time for your brain to get going, at least in my opinion anyway. You do need to have the time to really kind of look at what you're doing and just be able to practice. So I think 30 minutes is sufficient enough to be the minimum, right? But you get the time in wherever you can, and so that way you can continue to move the ball forward. Okay, guys, 240 hours of study is going to be a huge difference. And if you need to find a tutor, you need to find a mentor, there's a ton of tutors on LinkedIn. I'm a tutor myself. My rate is in the description box below. Mentors, of course, you don't have to pay for, and there's a ton of people on LinkedIn who will gladly mentor you. Please don't ask me to mentor you because, guys, everything that I do not have the time. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So if this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.